presented with deep respect and from the center of my being. This documentary is an attempt to share the alluring culture of the Queros, the practitioners of ancient wisdom who live in the Peruvian Andes. My story starts when I was privileged to join an 8-day special pilgrimage arranged by my friends Norman and Bernardo to travel around the Apu Ausangate with the Queros. I immersed myself in a specific journey. Its destination was the top of a mountain where I released my mother's ashes and prayed to her in the company of those majestic, otherworldly surroundings. Here I embraced the world of the guardians of nature, the Queros, and discovered simple yet profound answers to the search for a more meaningful and peaceful existence. Standing at 5,000 meters, I discovered a different world, the world of the living energy. Alongside Norman, Bernardo, Don, Vicente, and other seekers with whom I share memories of a lifetime. We also shared beautiful night skies with an isolated community that tenaciously preserves traditions, reflecting their spiritual union with the most beautiful backdrop of natural surroundings. The Apus are a sacred mountain region of powerful spirits and masters, and are the core of Andean religion. They offer a portal between the world as we know it and a more mindful and fuller human experience. Being in their presence is a wonderful way to witness the fellowship between the Queros and the Apus. For the Andean Queros, the world of nature is alive and responsive, and the cosmos is a vibrating field of pure energy. In the Andes, the two primary spirit energies are Pachamama and the Apus. Pachamama is an ever-present deity who is the absolute mother and a fertility goddess, the spirit mother. Through the Apus, she provides an energetic, living power, a connection between our physical existence and our spirituality. Apus are the highest level of natural energy and are the most important spiritual guides within the Andean sacred tradition. It is through the Apus that the Queros receive wisdom, counsel, and healing knowledge. We also receive from Pachamama our form, because she alone has the creative power to sustain life on earth and to take it away. Therefore, all our actions are an act of reciprocity with Pachamama. She also provides a multitude of reference points from which Andeans orient their lives. She provides the entry points of a person's transition from the world of the spirit to the world of the physical. Despite their majestic power as tutelary spirits, all Apus are approachable by anyone. The Apus are of service when anybody needs them. And here I was, in front of Apu Ausangate. Andeans are born into a world that they believe is an extension of their own consciousness. Their teachers are the spirits of nature itself. Through them, we become aware of how trapped and limited we are within our own minds. Norman explained to me that cocoa leaves are an integral part of this lifestyle, both from a cultural and traditional perspective. This master plant is used as an oracle by the Pampa Mesayok, or medicine men, the keepers of earth-based rituals and knowledge. Coca leaves generate fluidity, which helps us to be present. Here, in the presence of isolation, I understood what Norman told us about masculinity and femininity, yin and yang, not as a gender, but as a reference point, where in reality, nothing is yin and nothing is yang. It becomes yin only in reference to something else. Unity through duality, but in reconciliation. Aini is the principle of reciprocity. The natural world is based on relationships, far beyond connections, because it denotes an exchange. When Aini is broken, fear is released, and through fear, you break relationship with your body, mind, and the natural world. The Kero believe that the world around them is charged with living energy, the Kamse Pacha. Bernardo said to me, this place will activate, nurture, and re-establish relationships. The technology used is called the Despacho. Keros see the earth, the mountains, sun, the moon, the stars, and even the stones as permeated with spirits that are as conscious as the Kero as they are of them. To start a journey or an important activity, they first burn a despacho, an offering composed of sugar, alcohol, seeds, cocoa leaves, or anything else available at the time, wrapped inside a small piece of woven fabric or paper. I understood the despacho as a very specific way to accommodate certain elements that in a certain order transmutate from the gross to the subtle, and you obtain the essence of each element. This essence generates a melody, and this harmonic melody transcends into the language that nature understands. Nature has the perception and intuition to understand the language that is capable of communicating relationships that sustain health, or kausei, or vital energy, as seen by the Keros. Day by day, we started harmonizing the energetic field of our existence at this magical place, the Peruvian Andes. During the journey, I asked myself a question. What is it to be aligned with my life, my beliefs, my thoughts, making right decisions in my day-to-day life? The answer came from Don Vicente and was simple. The goal is to find the natural order, using relationships to sustain it, that will generate the conditions for life to foster. Mother Earth does that intrinsically, but humanity, with the use of free will, does not. We need to learn and practice the conditions that generate life, and this is the mystical work that the mountains and the Keros teaches us. This ancestral knowledge flows in simplicity. There is no complexity in the practice because we are part of it. We only need to open our heart to the awe of existence. We need to allow ourselves to recognize all the messages that carry this simplicity, integrating it into our day-to-day lives. The more practices I learned from the Kero, the more I wanted to know, and the more I wanted to delve into and experience this world of living energy myself. This evolved into a practice that showed me how to embrace oneness while also helping me live fully and divinely in the physical. I felt whole, a fusion of body, spirit, and mind for the first time in my life. I learned to make my meditations intentional as well as my steps, taking slow, quiet steps without rushing to find the extraordinary in the customary. Each step I took helped me to start seeing all the layers of suffering, fed by my ignorance of not seeing things as they are. Day by day, there emerges an urgency to leave that space of suffering, and this is the fuel that I needed to start my path to sustain the practice. This contemplation gives me a perspective that guides my mind to be able to understand and perceive this reality that previously went unnoticed. This is the genuine motivation that acts as a lens to focus and see things differently. observe from contemplation and perception. I feel no need to follow a path that uses mystical spirituality from an enlightened and unapproachable Buddha, but rather from a human practice. Being in the presence of the isolating purity of nature is to understand the possibilities of growth. This path at the Apu Ausangate acquires wisdom and knowledge through a personal experience. If a teaching is not grounded in personal experience, it does not hold much value. So, Bernardo, Norman, and Dom Vicente encouraged me to trust more in my own experience rather than in the words spelled out by them. Now, days later, I would say very simply that the Andean concept of energetic reciprocity was the most intense growth I have ever experienced in the adult chapter of my life. An eye-opening chapter that allows me to perceive the world in a nurturing and liberating walk. It became clear that there was one formidable hurdle I had to overcome. My belief in myself to overcome personal and cultural boundaries. One is ready when one can see the opportunity to generate an impulse for personal evolution, allowing one to grow at one's own pace, connecting with our authenticity. Andean practices are launching pads, not landing fields. They enable us to consider indigenous traditions beneath historical and cultural context, and bridge the gap between modern Western beliefs and ancient spiritual authenticity. Here in the Apu Ausangate, I was inspired by the commitment that indigenous masters undertake when offering us their teachings. Their practices, which are so provocative and liberating for us, are simply everyday life for most of them. Their spirituality is not a product for consumption, but an ancient knowledge that belongs to all receptive, sensitive beings. I have learned that real spiritual work, mystical or shamanic, is not practiced in the other world or in another dimension, but in the here and now, in the mundane world that we wake up to every day and which can only be enhanced, transforming ourselves. What is truly transformational and magical is knowing that every moment, no matter how seemingly simple it is filled with wonder. This is the moment when we need to pause and question the reality we have all been fed since birth. For me, the real value of this pilgrimage, embraced with the Andean sacred traditions, was to help me live life consciously. I used to think that growth was about cultivating qualities that enhance well-being, such as being non-judgmental, giving unconditional love, patience and forgiveness. However, my Andean experience taught me to be conscious of my every thought, feeling, intention, vision and action. Improving my relationship with my own feelings instead of transforming them, and flowing deep in my own mundane, humble life. The Andean teachings are predicated upon the ability to discern energy clearly and objectively without judgment, without overlaying our own subjective prejudices, fears, and expectations. I understood the importance to see clearly enough to fully empower ourselves to create a life that expresses one's greatest potential and best qualities, to develop the capacity to see reality exactly as reality is. I found that it is about moving beyond my personal expectations and wishful thinking, about learning to see with clarity and maturity, to choose which wave to ride, and to endeavor to surf it effortlessly. It demands expressing myself authentically in thought, word and deed, with absolute honesty and integrity, being impeccable, as Norman says. is about exposing the truth of what we expect from ourselves and how we act and think towards others. About unmasking ourselves from our trances, leading towards a reconciliation to who we truly are, and to recover our capacity to understand that we are all part of the one, and separation is just an illusion. This journey has taught me that I don't need to run to exotic places in search of unusual experiences, the Instagram moment, but rather it's about finding the miraculous in the mundane. I found that it is not about shamanism or psychotropic-induced journeys to other dimensions, or the participation in elaborate rituals and ceremonies, but rather it is about using tools for living in harmony with nature and with my loved ones, as simple as this sounds. To immerse myself in the Andean cosmology, I learned to shift my awareness from my mind to the heart center, to feel more. For the Keros, as I understand it, their goal is to provide us with ways to enhance our well-being in the challenging world of the flesh, in continual exchange with the animating energy, constantly cleaning our confused and conflicting emotions of the conscious and subconscious feelings that drive our thoughts and actions, because we do not live in reciprocity, closing ourselves to the possibilities before us. How different our world might be if only we could all do so. May the path that I take be walked. May the word that I speak be spoken. May the wish that I make be wished. May the walk that I do be done. Don Julian.